Maybe it's because the last day of winter falls in this month. But don't be fooled. The snowiest month in Fort Collins, Colorado is March. And I don't know if it's that we're getting out of this winter freeze, especially over January when it was just freezing cold, fridges with tons of snow, that you forget that the snowiest month is March. Now, in this video, we're gonna talk to you about things that you can expect and things to take into consideration when living in Fort Collins, Colorado and northern Colorado because of the snow, the area, and the climate. What's up, everybody? My name is Patrick Soukup with Soukup Real Estate Services in Fort Collins, Colorado, and this is the Living in Fort Collins channel. If you're new to the channel, it talks to you about everything there is to know: living, eating, sleeping, snowing in Fort Collins, Colorado. And we are licensed real estate agents, so if you're considering making a move, buying, selling, or investing, give us a call, text, or email. We've got your back. Now, without any further delay, let's discuss the snowiest month in Fort Collins, Colorado. Let's go. So the first thing to take into consideration is we move out of December, January, and February, which are absolutely our coldest months of the year. And we move up to an average high temperature in March of 55 degrees. And the last day of winter this year, 2023, is March 20th. So it just feels like we're just getting out of our hibernation den and we're coming back into spring, but all of a sudden you get pelted with a 20-inch snowstorm. And looking over the last 20 of the largest snowstorms in Fort Collins, 7 of them fall in March, and actually 5 of them fall in April. So even though we come into spring, we aren't out of the woods yet necessarily at the end of March and beginning of April. The time that we plant our flowers is always Mother's Day, so even up to Mother's Day we could have freezes, but March and April are absolutely gonna get hit with some good, wet, heavy snow. And the reason why I say good, wet, and heavy is talking to some farmers, people who grow crops, they hate snows generally that fall in December, January, and February because they're just gonna evaporate. The moisture content is so minimal and the temperatures are so low that the actual moisture that gets into the soils really is inconsequential. It just doesn't matter. But the snows that happen in March and April, along with those 50, 60 degree days that are gonna melt off and just really drench the heavy, drench your soils, those are gonna come in March and April. And it is very likely that we could see a 20 to 35 inch snowstorm in March or April. Just recently, over the last couple years, there was a video that I put out that was complete downpour of snow. Within 24 hours, we saw 24 inches of snow accumulation. And a tip is gonna be that you're gonna wanna get out in the middle of the night, as crazy as that sounds, and shovel that snow, especially if you haven't gotten out there before, because the first 1 to 2 inches are gonna be straight slush. So if you get out there and you've got a foot of snow, but the first 2 inches are straight slush, you're talking significant amount of weight. So what I've done and what my dad did when I was growing up was wake me up in the middle of the night. We get out there early, probably every 2 to 3 hours, depending on how fast it's falling, and make sure that we clear those layers. So by the time that it's done, you've probably shoveled anywhere between 4 to 7 times, but you at least didn't break your back on any one shovel. And as you can see that this, in the other videos that I've made, this snow, even at its 24 inches, is gonna be gone within a week's time. And because of Fort Collins infrastructure, really the main roads are gonna be clear pretty much within 24 hours. Now on these big snowstorms, you gotta give them a little bit of leeway, but the side roads will take a few days. So I've got a big F-150 truck, keep my family safe, but it does great in these big, heavy snows. If you've got a 2-wheel drive or a little Honda Accord, I'm throwing out a Honda Accord because my buddy Chris, he's got one, and then he's got a Prius, so they need to get themselves a nice snow vehicle for Fort Collins. They're from California, love them to death, but you're definitely gonna want a bigger vehicle for these specific times if you have to work outside of the home, because you are either going to be shoveling yourself kind of a path while you're waiting for those snow trucks and snow plows to come. But again, they're going to be so focused on the main roads that they're going to hit the side roads after probably anywhere between 36 to 72 hours, really depending on after the snow is done. But what's crazy is sidewalks are gonna be clear. Your streets are gonna be clear, dry even, because after that 24 incher, 30 incher, you're gonna have maybe a 60 degree day that just decimates the snow. So while you could expect a snow to accumulate within 24 hours, probably 24 to 36 hours, the roads are gonna be clear, you're gonna be able to get out there, you're gonna be able to drive around. But that's not to say that you shouldn't be extra careful and vigilant when you are on the roads. And the reason I say that is because March, while the highs can get to those 55-degree days, you can also see freezing temperatures as soon as that sun goes underneath the shade of the mountains. And it was a time that I was driving with my kids. This is actually why I have a Ford F-150. Is I was driving my kids. I had a rear wheel BMW that was my mom's boyfriend's that shouldn't have got it. My wife hates me that I got it, but that's another story for another time. But that being said, it was in great condition, only had 50,000 miles, 1998 BMW, and this was only 3 years ago. So you do the math of how old that car is. But I picked my kids up from daycare. I was driving them home on College Avenue, which is one of the busier roads in Fort Collins, right around 4:30, so rush hour traffic. It was in March. The sun had just kind of started to go down, but temperatures really dropped quickly without that sun beating down on you. And there was a patch of black ice that I hit and didn't even know. It just felt like my car went on an ice rink and did basically a 180-degree turn across 6 lanes from the far right lane on College Avenue to the far other lane heading south on College Avenue and almost got smashed. So it wasn't that I wasn't paying attention, but it was something that I just didn't think that, hey, there could be black ice right now because we just had all of this winter or all of this melt off during the day because it was a hot day, but then the sun kind of goes down and black ice, and fortunately we did not get hit. But you can bet it was within, I think, a week's time. Sold that car, bought the big truck, and I said, no more. If my kids are gonna be in the car with me, we are going to be safe as can be. But that being said, we got home, we were able to get the kids out and really play in some of that snow that we really enjoy. Now, the March snows are phenomenal for snowmen, snow forts, snow igloos, and you can think that really it's a good opportunity for you to prep your yards for this snowstorm. So let's say come May 10th, you've had a few days of no snow or a lot of no snow, your yard's clear, but you see in the forecast, which is getting pretty accurate these days, that you're gonna see 3, 4, 6 inches of snow. This is a great opportunity for you to lay down some fertilizer, get that moisture content, really get into your soils, and see that green grass come really strong in that spring time period. So while you might think that December, January, February will be the snowiest months of the year, especially this year in January. I mean, we got smashed. I think it was our worst January in at least the last decade. It's interesting talking with so many people moving here from all over to the states and country that they come here in Fort Collins and they experience their first winter and they're like, what'd you talk about? 7 to 10 storms. I think we got 7 to 10 storms in January, and you're gonna have some of these months that hopefully average out over the rest of the year. But when I say 7 to 10 storms, that's 2+ inches in a year's time period, which usually equates to 2 shovels each time, because when you get 2+ inches, you're talking 4 to 10 to 12 inches plus. But January, we just got smashed. And as we enter March, you might forget that, hey, this is actually our snowiest month of the year, followed closely by April. So while we might not necessarily have the freezing cold temperatures like we do in December, January, and February, we actually are gonna get that moisture content that these farmers love. Fill up those river basins, get us some good clean water for tubing coming down the way no, don't go tubing in spring. It's very high level, high waters. You don't want to start tubing until July, August time periods. Let that May, June snow runoff get through and get those rivers clean and safe for you as far as tubing goes. So not necessarily that, but the rivers fill up, great time to drive up Horace-Tooth to see some of that runoff. But March is going to be a snowy month, typically. But you're also gonna see some temperatures in the 60s, maybe even touch the low 70s, depending on how nice it gets. So if you were wondering what the snowiest month in Fort Collins, Colorado is, you now know it's March. Hopefully you can get through this month and April and into spring, summer, and enjoy the heck out of it. Again, thanks everybody who is watching. My name is Patrick Soukup with Soukup Real Estate Services. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you found this content informational and helpful. All right, until next time, take care.